wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Does observation affect reality? Just because you can't see something, does that mean that it doesn't exist? Do you have to see something for it to be anything at all? That's going to be the topic of today's show. With me in studio, as always, my lovely, beautiful wife, Christina Peck. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm doing good, too.
Okay, good.
That was an odd response, darling.
I was just going to ask you how you doing. You're like, I'm doing good, too. Okay.
I already knew what you were going to ask, so I just decided to answer it anyway. The discussion was had, even though we didn't fully observe the full realization of it.
We do that a lot, though. We actually do know when the other person is going to say something.
It's going to get to the point where we won't even have to talk to each other.
Oh, won't that be nice?
Won't that be nice? People at home are like, do Josh and Christina have some problems? Are they? Maybe we should all gather together in prayer for their...
We're good.
So good. We're having a good day.
Yes.
Good day for me too. And actually, the audience probably doesn't know that. Well, actually, they might be able to know this because we wear the same clothes. But this is the 4th episode that we've recorded today. A lot of times we record these in advance just so we can have them done and
frees up some time for promos that are going on. Like I do stuff for the magazine.
By the way, if you haven't had a chance to do so, make sure that you subscribe to our magazine. You get it sent every month, and I write articles in all of them. So does Derek and Tom and Sharon, and sometimes you do.
Sometimes I do.
Sometimes
I'm
Joe.
just really busy with other things going on that I haven't written in a few months.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to want to do. Well, this might be somebody's first episode ever having seen this. Where can they find us online?
Right here on youtube.com/into the multiverse. Or you can go to our main channel, Skywatch TV /Skywatch TV_official. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
And there you can see all the other shows that we put out on Sci Friday. We have our show. We have the main program, I believe.
Dailies, Skywatch Women One-on-One that Sharon hosts.
Sharon does that. Or you can watch us on Roku under the Skywatch TV channel. Definitely.
And pretty soon, or actually probably by now, we are in the Apple store, so you can download an app. And also, if you have a mobile phone or something, we have an app for that too, I believe, for the smartphone. And I think for Android too, right? I think.
Android is a smartphone.
Is it?
Yep.
What's an Apple?
Also a smartphone.
So the term smart just kind of generally applies to both. Oh, I didn't know that.
Surprise.
Well, learn something new every day. But anyway, so people can search for all that and find it. The best place to go for all that, though, just go to skywatchtv.com and you can learn all that you want to know there. And you get free articles, free videos, free everything. Does observation affect reality? And even more, are we living in a simulation or a hologram? And it's something that's been asked by physicists and even some Christians. Some Christians take a really hard stance on this, and they say, no, that's a demonic idea, because it's kind of just a general belief that, well, if this isn't really real, then nothing we do matters. Which, that's true. If this isn't real, what does it matter what we do?
That's a dangerous thought, though.
It is. But it depends on how we interpret what real actually means. I look at everything around us, our relationships with one another, everything that's in the Bible that says what people have done, all that is real, But I think that there are things that are more real, like heaven and God and angels. I think that has more physical, even, realness than we do.
Yeah, that we've talked about in other episodes. The higher you go dimensionally into other realms is actually more real than where we are now.
Exactly. So if you think of it in those terms, I don't see it as us being less real than what we think we are. You know, we're just as real as we've always thought, and maybe even more so. But compared to the real reality, compared to heaven and angels and God especially, I don't think that we're quite as real as that. You know, we exist, we have existence, but just in physical matter and makeup and what constitutes something as real. Compared to that out there, I actually think you could make an argument that we're living in a type of simulation. Now, we're not talking about Matrix, or we're not talking about that we're in like a giant computer that God built, or, you know, it's a lot of these terms that physicists will use to explain things are just that. It's just a like a hyperbole, or it's just a metaphor or an example, like the holographic universe idea. And I don't fully get it, you know, but basically it's, you know, when you shine light through a two-dimensional like screen, it can create a three-dimensional like hologram, and there are theories in physics that say, well, we could sort of be like that. Now, it's just using that as an analogy, just an example. It's not saying there's literally some literal two-dimensional thing out there and there's a literal light shining through it and then that's us. Because the problem with that is a hologram is just made up of the light that's being shined through different things. We're physical, you know, we can't go through one another. You could have two holographic images that go through one another just fine. We're not like that. So it's just an example. So we have two things that we want to touch on here. The whole, are we living in a simulation? And then, but also, does observation affect reality? Now, that's something we've talked about before, and I might have to backtrack on.
Yeah, we've come across some other things. That,
but that's what's great about learning. That's what's great about science, and that's what should be great about Christianity as well. You know, we don't have to have one idea and then hold on to that forever, even if we've written books on it. So in a couple of my books, I had written that, you know, no, I don't believe that observation does affect reality at all, and mainly what I was thinking of when I wrote those things was the whole Schrodinger's cat scenario. You know,
that's what I jumped to as well.
Yeah, you have a cat. Basically, you have a cat in a box with some poison and like a thing that where you don't know if the poison, the vial of poison has been broken or not. So the cat exists in what's called a super state of life and death. You know, because you can't know if it's dead or alive.
So it's both until you look at it.
Until you look at it, and And actually, when Schrodinger first posed that, he was using it to show how ridiculous of an idea that is. You know, he wasn't using that example to support an idea. He was saying that, you know, quantum superstate is kind of ridiculous if you think about it. There's still a reality. You know, the cat is still dead or alive, whether you're looking at it or not.
Both.
Yeah, it's not both. So he was actually using that argument to show how ridiculous it was. And then just throughout the years, because it was a long time ago, throughout the years it kind of got turned around, and now people generally use that to support quantum superstate theory, which actually might be accurate anyway. So my main problem with it was, well, there is always an observer because there's God, you know. So how do you get away from that? And most physicists will just say, well, there just isn't a God then, you know, or most physicists won't take that into
consideration.
Yeah. But the weird thing is, it does seem like observation affects reality. Now, I am nowhere near the point yet where I'm going to agree with my good friend Tom Horn and say that means that if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, that it doesn't make a sound. He and I have had some heated debates.
Oh, that one day at lunch when he was in the lunchroom. Oh my goodness, you guys.
Oh man, we throw down because it absolutely makes a sound. You don't need a receiver for the sound to exist, and I understand. Sharon has gotten in on this. Sharon takes Tom's side, but Steve Quayle takes my side. Yeah, this is actually something that me and Tom have talked a lot about, because we have this ongoing argument, if we can call it that, if a tree falls in the woods and, you know, does it make a sound if there's no one around to hear it? Where do you stand on that?
Absolutely, it does.
Thank you, Steve.
Because let me tell you something.
We win.
First of all, no. But I mean, it doesn't. basically God challenged Job on that. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the world?
Right.
I got news for you. I don't think God put it on mute.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, it's, I joke. Of course, we don't actually argue about that, but we do have fun discussions about it. And
I love that Steve Quayle takes your side.
Me too. Me too. And I love Steve. I don't know if that helps me or I don't know if that helps my case or hurts my case that he takes my side. But I kid, of course. Steve is great. I love him.
Oh, he's fun.
But yeah, I mean, but that does kind of speak to this question. Does reality exist even if there's no one there to observe it? And people are generally split on that issue. In certain regards, I'm starting to lean the other way because of an experiment that was conducted in recently, 1999, called the Quantum Eraser. That actually, strangely enough, it shows that it shows that observing something does change it in a certain way. And it's really weird. It shouldn't be possible, but it is. And we're going to get more into that right after this break. So stay with us.
Newly exposed geological evidence combined with a convergence of global events have many of the brightest biblical prophecy experts convinced that the tribulation is about to begin. Learn exactly what they've uncovered and what you need to know about the imminent future in the new Coming Convergence Deluxe Special Offer. In this unique special offer, you'll receive the new, full-length, award-winning documentary film, The Coming Convergence. Plus, you'll also receive the best-selling 5-star documentary movie from Ingenuity Films, The Final Prophecies. This cutting-edge documentary, written and directed by Brent Miller Jr., is a look into biblical prophecy like you've never witnessed before. The Final Prophecies takes you on an epic journey to uncover the secrets behind Middle Eastern prophecy and reveals how devastating political, financial, and environmental change on a global scale may be closer than ever. But that's not all. Also included in this special offer, the all-time best-selling book, The Final Roman Emperor, along with the Final Roman Emperor companion DVD. A 5-part Skywatch TV special investigative report. These 2 incredible works feature guests like Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, Derek Gilbert, and others. With this incredible book and DVD set, you'll discover the weapon of mass destruction that ISIS will use and how it will lead to an apocalypse. The preparations by the occult elite and their visions of the final Roman emperor from within the Vatican vaults, and the coming battle for the cosmic mountain. Also exposed is Tom Horn's greatest prediction yet, and one that is sure to shake the foundations of the world. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $85. Yours now for only $24.95 plus shipping and handling. So understand the converging of today's global events and how biblical prophecy is unfolding now. Get the Coming Convergence Deluxe Special Offer, available now at the Skywatch TV store.
Welcome back to Into the Multiverse. If you haven't had a chance to do so, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Share with your friends and family. We do a show that we try to make it, pardon the pun because it's quantum physics, but we try to make it timeless, where you could go back to episode 1 and it's still just as relevant now as it was then when it was first recorded. We sometimes will cover current events if it's something that we think is going to be long-lasting, but we don't really. It's not like once a show's over, oh, I missed last week's. I can't go back and watch it now because it's outdated. Right. We don't do outdated shows. Everything is just as relevant. Now, and the reason I bring that up is because we've had episodes where we have taken the position that no, observation consciousness does not affect reality, which is what we're talking about, because all that is, we did a whole episode on what's called the double slit experiment. Basically, it shows that if you're observing something, you get you shoot these particles through 2 slits, and then on the other side it just shows up, as 2 lines of particles. But if you're not observing it, if you don't have some kind of measuring device, then you get what's called an interference pattern, which is a bunch of lines of particles, which basically shows that the particle's acting more like a wave than anything else.
Well, a particle is a wave.
Yeah, well, yeah. And people can go back and watch that episode if they want more information on that. I don't want to delve too much into it here because there's too much to get through. But so Sean Carroll, who is an awesome physicist, and I like his work a lot. I don't agree with him when it comes to spiritual matters, but when it comes to just hard science, I agree with him. And he did this whole presentation. And this is also, sometimes we authors get accused that, well, the only reason that they're still saying that is because, you know, they have books on it and they can't go back on what they said. And it's totally untrue.
Right.
We totally go back on things that we say sometimes if it's called for. You know, I don't know any, I personally don't know any author. This is just the ones that I work with, my colleagues, people that I know. I don't know of any of them that if they changed their mind on something or if they found out that something they wrote was actually wrong, that they would just keep writing it wrong because of, I don't know anybody that is like that. And the reason I bring that up, so last year, and it doesn't make this obsolete or anything, it just makes it incomplete, if anything. Last year, we did an episode, and I also did a presentation at the
Rocky Mountain
International Prophecy Conference. That's right. And a part of that was trying to look at this question: does observation affect reality? And I stated my belief at that time that no, because and here's why. You know, Sean Carroll in the presentation he did had said that the reason it seems like it does is because when you're observing something, you're adding, usually a detector or a human being, you're adding a bunch of particles that are that are going to affect the experiment because they're creating ripples in quantum waves or in quantum fields that's going to affect the experiment, and that's why you're seeing that. And that made sense. So I was like, okay, well, that's probably what it is. Well, there's this experiment called the quantum eraser, and we will have to do. I'm going to have to just breeze through it because there's so much to it. We'll have to do a whole episode on it someday. I actually would like to. You can buy a kit that's the quantum eraser.
We talked about this before we started recording today. I'd like to get that kit, and we can do experiments at home with it.
Yeah, here on the show. I mean, how cool would that be?
Bring it to Skywatch.
But basically, so the idea goes that if you have a beam of light, and if you can measure it, not even if you are measuring it, just if it's possible to know where it came from, then you're going to have just the two slits, no interference pattern. If you do it in a way where, say, you have beam splitters set up, so you shine light, and then you have photons come this way and this way, so and then you do it again and again and again to where you cannot know the original path, then you have an interference pattern. So somehow it's like the beam of light, and this is all within one experiment.
The light knows.
Yeah, and of course, it doesn't have conscious thought and it doesn't know, but somehow, and this is all within one apparatus, one experiment. So if it was just that the observer is affecting the experiment by just being there, it should affect both beams, but it doesn't. The only beam that gets affected is the one where you can't trace back exactly where it came from, because you're using multiple sources of light. One source of light will shoot one way, but one will go through a couple different beam splitters. But you also have this one that might go through. So it's created in a way, and the only real good way to explain this is if we have one, so we can actually do the experiment and show. But what it amounts to is if you cannot trace back which light source that the end result is coming from, you're going to have this interference pattern. If you can, if it's possible to trace it back, then there will not be an interference pattern. There's nothing else different about the two beams. It's the same amount of light, same photon, or electrons you could use, but same photons, same everything. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is one beam of light has an extra quality to it that its origin can be known, whereas the other one doesn't. I don't know how that's possible. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
There must be something about particles that we don't understand yet, that just being able to know something gives it some extra quality that would make it act less like a wave, because that's essentially what's happening. If you can know the origin, it doesn't act like a wave anymore. It acts more like a particle.
That's so weird.
Isn't it? And there have been even really exotic theories to say that, well, particles know where they're going to end up before they leave. I don't know about that. I know, it's trippy. It's totally trippy. But it does seem like, so I gotta backtrack on something that I've said, that observation does not affect reality. It seems like it does.
That's so weird.
And it doesn't mean that it has to be like our conscious, and I still hold to this, our conscious, just because we're thinking about something, it changes things. I don't think so.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't think so, because then that gets into this idea that we're our own gods and we can affect.
We're not.
We might be able to affect reality on a very small quantum scale, and that's only because we have brain waves.
Yeah.
And they can radiate out, they can be measured, so it's a physical thing that's happening, and maybe you could affect something that way. But you can't, like, I don't believe that you can, eventually get to the point, if you train this part of your mind, and then you can move things, and telekinesis, I don't get in. And then if you can even take it further, then you can create your own things. You can be the god of your own universe.
No.
I'm not the guy. I'm not.
No.
I'm never going to be that guy.
I'm not going to be that person either. No,
because there's no evidence for that. There's absolutely none. Especially the Bible speaks out against that kind of stuff. There's only one guy, and it's not us.
Right, and creating those things and whatever. And God never said it wasn't possible. He said not to do it.
Right.
So don't do it.
Exactly.
It's possible.
Exactly.
To manipulate things, and
then you have to wonder, well, is it really you doing it, or is it a demon doing it,
right,
or is it some outside force that we don't have any concept of? But this also goes back to the question before, like, are we living in a simulation? Because it would seem like if it wasn't a simulation, these weird little paradoxal things like quantum entanglement and this quantum eraser thing shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be limits to reality if it's not a simulation, and there's a Planck length limit to smallness, but there's also an infinite limit to largeness. Like, you can never get to infinity because it's physically impossible, and we've done shows on that. But again, that doesn't mean that our reality is any less real than what we've always believed it to be. It's just as real. Your choices matter. Everything you do matters. I mean, you have life and death choices that people make. But it just means that what we think of as heaven or spiritual reality is actually far more real.
Yes.
Than anything. So I've been rambling a lot. What do you think? Do you think we're in a simulation? And if so, how would you define that? Do you think observation affects reality?
Well, I have to think about it, because I always thought that, what the outcome was with the double slit experiment was adding machinery, adding more interference.
Me too.
More electricity, of things running, everything.
Yeah.
You yourself emit an electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
I have a higher electromagnetic field that I actually cannot wear watches.
Yeah.
Because they stop.
Yeah.
Your
phones always break, and you've always had computers. Oh man, I have bought this woman computers that are hundreds of dollars. And they break. Mine work fine, but she takes care. She takes more care of them than I take care of my own stuff.
Yes, but I touch them, and after a couple days, they stop working.
They just fry. You have not had a computer any longer than maybe a couple months, like ever.
even the Chromebook, you were using it just fine. I get a hold of it. It runs so slow.
Are you already starting to have problems with that?
I've been having problems for a while. I get very frustrated with technology.
Yeah.
My phone, it's the same phone. We have the same exact phone, bought at the same time. My time on my clock is 7 minutes slower than his, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and you're having problems now, or I'm now starting to have. We've had these phones for a couple of years. I'm now starting to have problems that you were having a month after we got them. Like it won't hold a charge and just that stuff.
Right.
But anyway, going back to the whole thing.
Going back to the whole thing.
Reality, observation, simulation, hologram.
I always thought it was just because of our electromagnetic field that we give off.
And at least with the technology, that probably is what it is. It's
Yeah.
probably just something like that.
Yeah, but other things that I really have to look at it.
Same here. And
'Cause
I still don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't know for sure. The whole quantum eraser, and there have been people that have put forth theory. Well, maybe the actual detector. Maybe it's just as simple as the detector itself. Because what a detector is it's kind of well, there's different ways of detecting things, but it kind of looks like a piece of glass, and the particle goes through the glass, and that's how they can detect what particles are going through. Maybe the detector is doing something that's messing it up, you know. Maybe, and maybe that's why the other one, because it doesn't have a detector. But I don't know, because there are problems with that too, with the whole quantum eraser thing, and it's going to have to be one of those future episodes that we can only get brush on the surface.
We're going to have to try it
because we're going to actually have to get the experiment,
get it and try
show it to the people at home, and actually explain what's happening. But in its most extreme case, the quantum eraser experiment, in the most just out there theories, could in a sense be a type of time machine. I mean, we might be living in a day, and I'm not saying it is this, it's just weird to think about that we would even have the question, but we might be living in a day where for $2,000, well, like $1,800, you could just buy your own time machine. You know, you can't do anything with it. You can't send stuff back, but it could be something where somehow these particles behave in a way as if they already know where they're going to end up before they get there, and either they'll tell you or they won't, depending on their mood.
I don't know, maybe.
Photons are fickle like that. You never know what you're going to get.
There, maybe I'm going to go over there.
Yeah, it's really weird to think about, but I think it should also humble us as people who enjoy science, and as Christians too, that we just don't know everything. Even God, who can observe everything, that doesn't mean that we can. And maybe if something can be observed, maybe that information gives it an extra quality that physics just hasn't discovered yet. So there could be a totally natural, reasonable explanation for it, but we really don't know. I can't believe it. We're already out of time.
Seems to happen a lot.
We are already out of time. I mean, do you have any closing remarks?
My thing is, over this subject, I don't know anything, and I can't say anything until I try it.
Same here. I don't know anything.
That's my deal. I've got to try this.
Well, what do you at home think? What do you guys think about reality? Does observing reality actually affect it? What should that mean for Christians, if anything? Is it just a who cares scenario, or is there more to it? Do we live in a hologram? Do we live in a simulation? Is there any reality where that might be reality? For Christina Peck, I am your host, Josh Peck, and I want to thank you so much for joining us yet again into the multiverse. And until next time, as always, take care and God bless.